Hey there, Delight here, coming with a Cuppa Creative. My cup today actually is a mug. I've got tea in it. It's later in the day, and I do like tea as well as coffee. This one is Renaissance Dallas Richardson Hotel. Renaissance Hotel chain is one of the chains that my daughter-in-law and son are both in that industry, and so sometimes those kind of cups are kind of nice because they remind me of how hard they work and how successful they are at what they do because they work hard and try hard, and I'm really proud of them, proud of all my kids. So I think all of us probably are. They're one of the gifts God gives us, no doubt about that. My creative juices today are running with junk mail. I'm into the recycling, and oh my goodness gracious, the mailman brings us all this beautiful stuff to work with. They always bring bills and literature from companies, and they have these nice return address, nice return envelopes for us to put our checks and our orders in, or whatever, and sometimes they just they send it, and the literature itself comes with a nice big opening in it. So these are the things that I'm working on today. Well, I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm just kind of doing the normal thing of folding one end up, and then you can glue them in a U and have a pocket in the back, and then if you just glue this little flap, you got another pocket right here. So they're not real fancy as far as something new to make. It's just how I'm making them, and I thought maybe you'd like to get a few ideas. We're always glad to find new ideas, we crafters. That's how we can do so many things, because we share with each other. So this is what I was doing, and I'm working on ephemera and tags and embellishments and things for some faith journals I'm working on. So these are all going to be for that, and they are the kind that I just showed you, where you've got a spot here for a tag, and then you've got a spot here for a tag. In these cases, I open this so you can put the tag down in here so that I can actually glue the whole thing, because some of these are nice and heavy, but some of them are a little more flimsy. So it's the way I prefer to do it. It's just, we all do them our own way. So anyhow, these the general idea, I'm working on 8 or 10, so I try to make 8 or 10 of each thing I'm working on. So they're not identical because the mail isn't identical. Every mailing that comes in is a little bit different, so you kind of can, I'm working with a theme here. It's kind of like lacy, doily, vintagey sort of stuff. So each envelope has to be addressed separately. These each are the combining factors are, however, each one of them was made with those two pockets, and each one of them was made using stenciling technique of some kind, and some vintage photo Tim Holtz distress ink, and a Sharpie marker, brown Sharpie marker, because that's what I had to work with. So that's what I'm working with today. So anyhow, this is how I was doing them. One of the things you have to do in each one when you get one and decide you're going to do it is see what you have to do as far as construction goes before you actually do it. For instance, these two are pretty much alike in that they don't have very distinctive return addresses and information about a company written on them. So that way they're in pretty good shape. But one of them has a design, a crosshatch design, in where the window will be. And this one has what looks like a nice graphic design, but when you look close to it, it identifies the name of the bank. So that's something you want to watch for and kind of avoid. So what I did, and some of these are that way. This one had distinctive stuff in it. This one just had a design, so I left it alone. This one had distinctive stuff in, so I had to put something in there. So that's the way it goes. And what I do in this case usually is continue with my upcycling, recycling thing, and I keep the pieces of paper when I write. I get a lot of things off of the internet. I love going to Pinterest and places and ideas and recipes, and of course, lots of coupons. So I was into the Hobby Lobby and got some coupons, and you only need about 25% of the paper, and the rest of it is just used up. And it's usually blank on the back, and it might not be good for a lot of things, but it certainly is good enough to be able to glue inside to cover up. It's what you're going to do. Now, some of them you can tell that there's something on the back of them, but that's no big deal because these are upcycled projects, and if anything, knowing that what was used to make this adaptable for new use was also used for something, just makes it all the better. Nobody minds. Nobody's ever complained. Give these for gifts all the time, and nobody said, oh, I don't want that because you used some old paper to fill something in with. So go with what you've got, and granted, this little teeny weeny paper going in the landfill is not going to be the end of the earth. So I'm not saving the world by using this in here, but you know what? It makes me feel better, so I do it. Anyhow, these I decided to use sort of a lacy-like thing is what I wanted to do. So what I decided to do was to do some stenciling. And I do have stencils that are sort of lacy looking, but I decided that I would use actual paper doilies for my stenciling. I have some, you can't, for this particular type of method, you can't use the really fancy ones with the big holes and the intricate designs, although they're gorgeous. It has to be the more sturdy ones. This is a thicker paper, and the design isn't cut out like some of them are, but it's what you need to do to be able to use it for a stencil, not have it rip. I'm using my favorite Tim Holtz Distress inks, and I'm using a cosmetic sponge. I can't use my Timmy tool anymore, my beautiful wood-handled embossing blending tool thing, because I can't hold it without starting some pain in my hands because of my arthritis. So I've watched other artists, and they're starting to use different kinds of things, so I've been trying, as they have, different kinds of cosmetic sponges, and that's what this is. So I just use it, and I'm with the doily, you have to be kind of gentle, and you just use the sponge like you would the blending tool. You can come in from the edge. It's not perfect. It's not my favorite thing for coming from the edge and inking, but it works. And I just keep going like this until I get it covered to the degree I want. The added benefit of this is when you're done, you have a whole bunch of vintage looking paper doilies, which you didn't have to coffee dye, which is always a nice thing. So you're killing two birds with one stone. Sorry about the literal bloodthirsty reference there to my kids who love every kind of creature there is in the world. I apologize. I didn't really mean to kill birds. Anyhow, I did the design until I got the envelope to the point I wanted it. I flipped it up and glued a little bit of lace on each one of them for some detail. I didn't want to do too much. I want to keep them kind of soft and loose. So I just used the Sharpie pen, and also it's what I happen to have here to work with. And I just did some scribbling around the edges, some scribble type of things, and made little lines every place to give it some detail. Because I had some rub-ons that I got in the sale bin at Hobby Lobby, and I wanted to use them. I don't use rub-ons very often, and I thought they would be kind of a nice change. And they really were, because they're so different, and there are little teeny weeny ones like these little thingamabobbers, and there are some that have sort of a whimsical font, and there are some that have a very strong font with a very bold letter, which is perfect. Like for this one, this particular envelope was a problem. It had a very distinctive logo on it that I had to do something with, and I couldn't get it covered with just the lace stenciling like this. So I actually took some tissue paper from a sewing pattern and just kind of stuck some on over it to kind of I just wanted to blur it down. I knew I wasn't going to get rid of it, but I could get it so it would sort of go into the background. So I put some of that on here, and I put a little bit on the piece that I folded up. I put a little piece of the tissue paper down here to kind of carry it through, not make it so obvious that I had a piece over here. And then I used the real bold attitude so that when you look at this, you'll see this instead of your eye going to this. So there's lots of ways that you can do these. Use the junk mail to work on your junk journals. Always a way to figure out a way to do it with just the resources you have, and that's half the fun. The challenge is sometimes the best part of the day, and using our brain is a good thing to do. We got to keep our minds busy and our bodies busy and keep on going, because that's what God put us here for, is to do things and to accomplish things to His glory. So here's another little tip for you. You can put some things together even if you don't have much, and try some new ways to do some simple old procedures. Even old ones like just flipping up the end of an envelope and gluing it on a page. You can do something with almost nothing, can't you? Enough said.